I'm going to read from Whispers from Eternity and Paramahansa Yoga, beautiful poetic prayers. This one is flowers and skies, heralds of thee. Flowers, cloud-scattered skies, and all beautiful blossoming scenery, all these only suggest thy divinity. I enjoy them, I revel in them, but then they remind me of thee. In that remembrance, these mere, though glorious messengers vanish, and the beauty of my own beloved infinity enthralls me. I remember many years ago, Devi and Jyotish were leading a guest Raja Yoga series, and Devi was saying one of the ways to look at God and Divine Mother was just to start to be open to seeing behind everything, behind like the light coming in through this window, the light coming in through the ceiling windows, the Divine Mother, of course, in the music, behind the music, and in the energy, and just being open that to be able to see and feel that God, is everywhere, always, and to just be open, to be able to receive that and perceive by looking beyond the seeming. Now, I did a similar talk. It's still a little different this week, but I did a similar talk in the South Bay last week of self-reliance, the soul reliance, the higher being reliance, rather than merely the self, like the I, me, mine reliance. And, but I did a little bit I'm going to use from the last time of, like, it was sort of like a high school project that I had, because we have these certain parts in the Bible that we read from both this week and last week, where Jesus mentions the vine. And we know, of course, that the vine is something that is still growing, and it's still moving and pliable in a sense, and is what, as Jesus said, is that living source. You could say also in our spine, the vine. But the arms, sometimes they say like the arms are like the branches of a tree, and we have the spine, our central energy, spinal column, and the chakras. And therefore, he's saying, because there was all the religion going around, that he was part of a great tradition. He was just bringing it to life today, in that day that he was there, to get beyond the frozen dogmas of that you do this and that and you follow, and even, I'll get a little bit more, but even in techniques to a certain extent, if we just kind of go through it in a mechanical way, that the true power of the avatar, and this was also in that reading about discrimination and looking beyond just the seeming of what is just merely the mind, what our intellect can come up with and try to figure out, which is always a very dangerous thing to try to do, is try to just figure things out on one's own, is it of God? Is it something, and the avatars, they really communicate not really so much in our heads, although our minds, we may pick up stuff and say, okay, thank you, Master, I'm going to do this or that. They're communicating with our souls, and they're reaching us deeper than what we can perceive in the cognizant level, and they come into us to the extent, of course, that we allow them to, and hence we come with the word abide. So I decided, again, like a high school student, to look up the word abide. Just abide. What does abide mean? Well, I've heard it a million times, just like serenity or prayer, but what is it inside, just to take it in? And well, we have the legal abide. If the cop pulls me over and gives me a speeding ticket, I will probably abide by the cop. Or, that would be one, the obvious, the legal, abide by the law. But in the Bible, the abide, it means to dwell more in a continual state of awareness. It's like being, if we're in a relationship with someone, right? We hopefully abide. We don't always have are playing video games or whatever while the spouse is there and kind of tuning out or this and that, but we're abiding, hopefully being present. And again, the disciples' main job with Jesus as his disciples now is to dwell, is to be open in our heart and being. To really abide means to keep with us. And hence we, of course, have, but many of us might have some pictures of the masters on the dashboard. And that's a real thing one can do, especially when commuting is a big thing in Southern California. And something I've worked on is my impatience in commuting. And so and Ron Murdy, actually, who is one of our beloved great ministers here, and then, of course, is in the village now, he had suggested, so I'll just pass it on, to pray before going out and driving, to pray to interiorize the peace from the attunement and the meditation in the morning, and then also to guide and protect me while I'm out on the road or out anywhere, really. But it's really, I pretty much scarcely go out without driving, without first doing the prayer. And that's a form of abiding. You can even imagine if driving on the freeway and there's no one else on the side seat, or even if you could be in the back seat, Yogananda sitting there in the passenger seat with me. And having that kind of awareness as a practicing it. Smriti, if I'm even pronouncing it right, God remembrance. What does this help us to do? Well, when we start to know that we're really not running the show here, and to start to be open, this is the teaching of yoga, of course, that we're not adding anything new. We're not even in a quote-unquote progressing in a way, in a certain sense. We're actually letting go, just unpeeling, unclogging, releasing all these things that kept us busy from who we already are, we're actually, in yoga teaches free. We already are. It's just that it's sort of like Yogananda loved to use the thing of the bird in the cage, right? That someone opens a little bird cage, the bird can fly out, but the bird is too afraid to leave the cage. It stays in the cage. It won't go out because it's afraid. It's afraid of that freedom. It's unknown. We have it in our Festival of Light, and that we open to the wind. The wind, give yourself into my hands, cried the wind, and then I will carry you to freedom. Go into your deepest self, into the unknown. It's all there in the Festival of Light, this reading, the essence of this reading. And it's that, because it's that turning away and then knowing that, oh, okay, this is the way that, and I'm really, the power you thought was yours, as it says, I'm paraphrasing, it was never yours, really. It was that you're being carried, and we can think of it like the wind. It's the self knowing God's, as Master would say, we call Master, and disciples often do, God's omnipresence is our omnipresence. All we need to do is just remember. Remember that we're omnipresent already. It's like the punchline, really, that we're already free if we want to be. And we're as free, and we also have in our purification ceremony, that is the essence of, symbolically also, of this path. because the guru, the masters, are like, they're always there shining like the sun. They're always there. They are just here to help us live in the light. That's the only reason they've come here. They have better things to do probably in the cosmos. Not better things, but they don't need to have us for their own well-being. They've come here out of compassion to take us with them. All those who would receive them, they'll make the sons, and we can say in modern times the daughters of God, that they are always shining, but just like it's a question of, are we turning to them? And if so, how much? There was one of our, it was Shanti or one of our Nayaswamis mentioned that, perhaps it was Kriyananda who said he saw Yogananda and he was giving the touch of light blessing. And someone noticed that he came up and he was sort of going, okay, I'll go up, and and he was just kind of doing. Yogananda did in a very understated way, gave him the touch. And then someone else came up and had his spine very straight and lots of enthusiasm and openness, and Yogananda gave him this very, I don't want to say necessarily more powerful, but definitely a much more clear, demonstrative blessing. And then the guy that said, hey, I didn't get that. What happened? The other guy says, well, let me go again. And so he went again, but he did the same thing. He was just sort of there going in, and Yogananda gave him that little understated, the understated blessing, because that was a reflection of where, come in. That was a reflection of the amount that we can receive. To them, he'll give the power to become the sons of God, to those who would receive. When I was in art school, we had gradation charts, and they're light and dark charts. And then we had color charts, too. I was in art school. So, and in the gradation charts, you had like black, dark gray, a little bit lighter, 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 till you finally get white. And so you had these scales, and if we think of it like God, it's just a matter of God will come to whatever mount the filter can take that light, or is able, depending on how opaque the light is. There's a fun story from a Vedic god Surya, who's the sun god. And it's a beautiful symbol, not only of God, the sun, but also of the guru. And Surya, the sun, is always shining. He's on his chariot. He's going across the sky, dawn, day, afternoon. And he's always selflessly shining the sun to all creatures. And also, not only that, sustains life on Earth, the planet Earth. Without the sun, the sun also represents energy, vitality. And he has also on his chariot the 7 horses, which have often been referred to as the 7 chakras, like our energy that is awakening, and the colors of the rainbow. But anyway, Surya, there's a story that he is so brilliant and he gets bright, like almost blinding, right? And like spirit. And so one of his wives was, I cannot remember her name. I might not be pronouncing it right anyway, but she, Sanjna, you'd know probably better than I would, Sanjna. And she represents the soul, and which is a part of individuated spirit. And she found her husband was too blinding to be around. It was like too intense. The heat was burning her. So she decided, the story goes, she made a disguise of herself. She went down to earth. She descended down to earth. And this is, of course, the soul descending from spirit into the earthly material plane. And then, so for after a while, Surya wised up to it and realized this is not his wife. This is somebody else. And he went down to earth. The spirit God went down to earth, kind of like the Avatar, you could say as well, descending back to earth. And so he goes, and meanwhile, she's changed herself into a mare. And so Surya is onto it. So he changes himself into a horse, and he chases his wife, and he then finally breathes on her and impregnates her, and she has two sons, the Ashvin twins, and they also relate to like celestial wisdom in the material realm, like how to use this, like the chakras, how to work with energy, how to work with the prana of the sun. But and so his wife says, okay, well, if I'm going to be with you, you're going to have to tone it down. You're going to have to tone this down a bit. So what he does out of compassion, Surya modifies. He creates like they say it like he surgically removes stuff or adds covers to kind of conceal his real radiance. Sounds like the avatars. And so then she can be with them, and they live happily, as they say, ever after. But similarly, God will take, and through the masters, will open and share their radiance to the extent that God's creatures have the bandwidth and capacity to receive. All who had received, to them he gave the power to become the sons of God. So it's a matter of all the children, all the creatures are getting the sunlight whether they know it or not. Most don't, or they don't think about it unless they look up. But to that extent, nevertheless, just like the guru, the sun is always selflessly sending love and blessings and light. What is the definition of a guru? One who takes one from darkness to. And so that is that journey, the soul's long journey through space and time, when he starts to awaken. And so I'm back to my high school assignment here. So we had now it says, Jesus says the husbandman. The husband, that's an older term. What is the husbandman? I know you know it, right? The husbandman husbandman is a farmer in the Bible. A farmer who is God is the husbandman, he calls. And the farmer is one. What does a farmer do? They raise, well, of course, animals and all, but they raise crops. They do gardening. So a farmer, to have a healthy crop of strawberries, has to weed out the plants that have weeds or are choking or overgrown or this and that. And what does a farmer do? They use tools. They have tools that cut into the earth. They dig. They pull out. So what they do is, what happens when the plants start to get too overgrown or dead, or you could say in a tree. I'll get back to that. But God we'll have to say, because the masters are one with God, they're going through. But that's the other part. When we're open, they are gardening us. They're working. God is working through us and releasing whatever stands in the way of our usefulness to God and fellows, and taking that, whatever is concealing and keeps us stuck. They want us to be shiny and bright and happy, like healthy strawberries and plants. And so they will, whatever our natural radiance is supposed to be. If we're supposed to be apples, we'll be beautiful apples. If we're supposed to be beautiful, azaleas, we'll be a beautiful azaleas. Our beauty comes out. There's nothing to be afraid of. Might be thinking, oh God, because sometimes it hurts when sometimes truth hurts, and going in there, they can, it's like in surgery. If you get something cut out, a tumor, it might be very painful, but in the long run, you feel better because you get that toxic stuff out of there. And so they go through and they're opening like this beautiful garden. Yogananda said, let your spiritual practice be like a loving garden that you're patient with. But of course, letting God do it through you. The branches, of course, if they're cut off, they have a little lifespan, but they're not going to last that long. And so it is with the disciples. Jesus is saying that when we break too far, too long, it's much harder to sustain that awareness because we are rooted in spirit. We're rooted in spirit. That's our true home. Anything else is foreign from that true home in us. Okay, so how do we keep from becoming branches that wither and perish? And then he says also get put in I think a fire and burned in one of the other passages. Well, of course, we keep our hearts open, and we all know this. Everybody who's in this room knows this. As disciples, we know that the God and the Guru are direct pipelines or connections, the trees to God, rooted in God. Try to be of service, find ways to stay spiritually active. It's not the form that matters. It can be doing anything. But as a friend of mine would say, God doesn't work well with a parked car. It's good to be in some sort of motion, some kind of service, and move, and in that, to be able, and even in meditation, action and inaction, our willingness to be of service. There's service we can be doing. We can be praying for others. We can be praying for everybody. By the grace of our masters, you are free. I've already mentioned that. They say in the Bhagavad Gita, and also cultivating this is so important, to not assume anything, to keep a beginner's mind. And staying humble, staying sincere. Nayaswami Diksha, many years ago said to me, she felt the single most important quality to have of any spiritual seeker, whether a disciple or not, is sincerity. And to be sincere, you need to be humble, have to try to be humble, at least have a clue that I'm trying to be humble, and honest with where one is. Just being honest. I'm doing my best. I'm going to try, and I'm doing my very best. This is what you get to work with, Master. And I'm going to do my best today. But sincerity. And we don't have to play a part or anything. It's when no one else is looking. What is our relationship like with the gurus, with God? And they say the humble in the, I'm going to wrap pretty soon, but it says in the Bhagavad Gita, the wise, it's not just like, oh, okay, cool, God, wow. It's like they're awestruck. They're awestruck by the power of God. And also they're saying in turn, Krishna, who is one with God. They're awestruck to have this real deep sense of humility and to be open to receive like a child. And the nuance, the subtle part of this is that we still need to act on our own 2 feet. Does that mean we have like a get out of jail free pass and we don't do anything? No, we're still here. There's still stuff to do. And they want us to get in there, and to take those actions and to be of service, but to do it with God. And we even have, I've mentioned before, but I'm just going to do it again, in popular culture. And probably the most famous example of this is in Star Wars. You have Luke Skywalker with Yoda, and also Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they're the Jedi masters. So you could say they're like Kshatriyas in a way. And they're above the ordinary horizon of like the characters, the aliens and Mos Eisley and ordinary people and all. And they've always got the eye, the Jedi always tries to stay calm, not give in to hate, and to fight for the Dharma, the truth. And so they are masters. They treat. And Luke goes through all the things of impatience. He wants it, sooner. And if you haven't seen it too late. It's been almost 50 years since the movie's been out, so it's okay. And the part where Obi-Wan, it's like Luke is doing this with the saber, right? He's trying to learn how to use the lightsaber and hit this metallic ball that's going bzzz. Then what does Obi-Wan say? Luke, try this now instead without looking. So he puts on the helmet so he can't see. You go by instinct instead. This is a very, very colorful, popular culture symbol of self-reliance. It's using the Force, because the self is not just our individual self, my higher self. The path of yoga is our omnipresence, is God's omnipresence. We're all in this together. We're all part of the same. We all come from the same one. So then when he's able to, it's not just that he's using the Force, and we could say prana, and God, the power of God, the grace of God. And then so he trains him, and then at the end of the first one, but it also goes into the others, it's not like Obi-Wan deliberately leaves the body. It's as part of like his work mission is done. But then Luke goes, it's not like Obi-Wan is sitting next to him physically in his ship. Then when Luke goes into the tractor beam and then hits the thing in the Death Star and it blows up, what does he do? He has to remember, he has to tune in to his master. And what does he say? Luke, use the Force, And then the strings are swelling and everything, and he's able to do it. At first, he gets too unfocused. So the attunement is everything in the higher, because we are not just attuning, we're tuning to God, and that's better than nothing, and there's no question about it. But since we have masters, we have ones who have gone through, who are not run by impatience, hate, and all those things. They've risen above and can take us all the way into the inner tractor beam, and eventually dissolve all these things that hold us, obscure us in the light, so that we can be our true, radiant, beautiful selves. Joy to you.